Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Off-Farm Income Podcast. Thank you very much for joining us here on our YouTube channel for episode number 812. Well, hey, everybody. Obviously, my format has shifted just a little bit since the COVID shutdowns and this pandemic has all started, and we've kind of refocused, at least during this time, in towards talking about things that can help people through these moments. And of course, I profile a ton of FFA students on this show, and this pandemic, this shutdown is affecting everybody, including students, in more ways than just being sent home from school. So on today's episode, we are going to talk about a special opportunity for students to receive a $1,000 grant to help them recoup some of the losses that they may have incurred because of the shutdown, maybe in terms of supervised agricultural experiences, maybe livestock they purchased that they're not going to be able to sell now, or they won't be able to sell for as much money. They're not going to be able to go to fair and be recognized. And there's an effort that has sprung up between the company Tallow as well as the AET tracker to facilitate recognizing some of these students and providing them with a $1,000 grant. So on today's episode, I'm going to have on Jennifer Eves of Tallow as well as Roger Hannegriff of the AET to talk about this. We'll jump into it right now. Well, everybody, I want to welcome Roger Hannegriff and Jennifer Eves of Tallow, and of course Roger's with the AET and the Texas A&M University. I want to welcome you both to the show. Thank you very much for coming on today.
You bet. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right. Well, so Roger, you're kind of getting old hat at this. This is your third appearance on my show in the last 4 weeks. I really appreciate all your time.
You bet. Well, I like to practice, so hopefully this will be better each time. You never know. Lots of room for improvement.
Well, I've been doing it for almost 1,000 episodes now, and I've seen no noticeable improvement in myself. So I can't guarantee anything, Roger, to be honest with you.
We never notice our own improvement. That's for everybody else to look at. But it's got to be getting better.
All right. And I'm assuming you're coming to us from down in Texas today.
I am down here in Central Texas. Nice sunshiny day.
Okay. And then Jen, where are you coming to us from?
Yes, I'm located in Charleston, South Carolina, where it's also a beautiful sunny day down here.
Okay, very good. Well, so, we've had Roger on a couple times over the last few weeks, and we've talked about the AET. We've talked about his courses there at Texas A&M and really kind of got my audience to know him very well. He's offered us some great information. Jen, I'd love to take a moment to introduce you to our audience. Could you kind of give us just a brief synopsis of yourself, and then we'd love to talk about Tallow as well and introduce everybody to Tallow.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Jennifer Eves. I am the VP of Marketing for Tallow. We're very fortunate to work with individuals like Roger and organizations like AET to bring opportunities to students. So Tallow is a free online platform that students age 13 and up can sign up for to create a professional digital profile so they can show their accomplishments, their skills, their goals, and then they're just matched with opportunities like internships, jobs, scholarships, and college programs. And then on the flip side, colleges and companies can use Tallow to connect with students on opportunities that they have.
Okay, interesting. So, how did this originate? Was it somebody recognizing that there's this pool of talent out there, but nobody knows how to tap into it, or nobody knows how to identify it?
Yeah, it's interesting. Our CEO and founder realized, hey, he was a sports, he was a kicker who played football at Purdue. And he said, hey, I've got all these opportunities because I am an athlete. And it's kind of sad because there's all these great kids out there that have all these talents that maybe aren't athletics related.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we find a way for them to get discovered and to showcase all the great things that they're doing, whether it's academic or school organizations or things like that?
Mm-hmm.
So that was really where the company was founded, was like, let's give kids that aren't typically noticed and that aren't as easily noticed and provided the same opportunities as those in athletics. And so that's kind of where Tallow came from.
Okay. And so as I'm kind of gaining knowledge and getting to know tallow. I'd love to hear, if you could, like, give us if we could boil it down to like a real world example of how it works, because I think with what we're going to talk about coming up, it would be great for the audience to understand exactly how this connection is made. So let's say you have since I talk about the FFA all the time, and of course Roger does as well, in terms of the AET and all of that. Let's talk about an FFA student who is going through high school. They're getting certifications and things like welding and things like that. They've got all these skills and talents. How does a profile on tallow help them connect with somebody, say, when they're done with high school? How does that look?
Yeah, and you actually use an example that's near and dear to my heart, because my nephew was actually in FFA in Kentucky, Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and he also is going to school now to get a certification for welding. So
okay.
you nailed an example that's really close, near and dear to my heart, and a big reason why I decided to join Tallow. So what my nephew or a kid in a similar situation would do is just sign up. Again, it's free, but sign up for Tallow. List that they're interested in ag-type careers or organizations. They can upload videos of what they've done. So maybe if they've raised a steer or had a really interesting project they've worked on, they can upload videos and pictures and different things to highlight that. And then our employers and our companies and colleges and different associations that are on the platform can go in there and search for kids with those types of skills. They can discover them, and then they can match with them to provide the opportunities that they have.
That is great. Okay, that is awesome. I'm so glad you exist. This is it's a great thing that Tallow is doing here.
Thanks. Yeah, we're excited about all of the opportunities that we can provide kids, especially now that most opportunities and most connections are happening online, given everything going on right now.
Okay. So, to the point of today's discussion, Roger's company, the AET, and Tallow are teaming up. And would one of you like to talk about this? Why you're teaming up and what we're doing, or what you are doing together?
Sure, I can try to sum it up, and Jim can help me with it. We, when we got connected with Tallow, and I guess it's probably been maybe through 2 or 3 years ago, we were at an FFA convention, and we were talking with teachers about how to use AET and how to help their students. And when I met the CEO of Tallow, Casey, we kind of hit it off, and you could see kind of a similar connection. We are working with kids while they're in high school to learn how to just document their experiences, track and learn what they do. And if they can create that record of their experiences and they can assemble that together, it gives them opportunities to apply for scholarships and just organize their information, apply for FFA awards. It's pretty common, get recognized by their local chapter. But really the goal is for them to gain these record-keeping skills, tracking what they do and they enjoy to do. And so through that, meeting Casey, it was like, wow, this company is helping these kids take it to the next level. We've got to connect up here. And so we've been connected with Tallow for a few years in our profile for students, where they can easily jump into Tallow and try to, showcase what they've done and look around. Well, fast forward to COVID situation that we're in today, I was actually talking to Casey, and he had mentioned a conference getting canceled. And so I thought, wow, that's crazy. At least our ag events are still on. Of course, this is back in early March.
Right.
And it was 2 days later, the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo canceled their event. Right in the middle of it happened. The events kids were already there showing their animals. And an animal project is just one example, but we might have students in AET tracking their lawn mowing business. We might be having students doing research projects where they go and present their results to a group. We might have kids that have jobs that are working on a farm or ranch or any other business. So these things just all of a sudden, as we all know, have come to a halt. And as I was talking to Casey about this conference getting canceled, we were visiting about the Houston Livestock Show getting canceled, and then it just hit me. We've got kids that have invested time and money, and those projects just aren't able to be completed, really. And so there's been some innovative things that happen. Some counties have come up with online auctions to try to help the kids, finish out their project. But if you were a student raising vegetables for a local farmer's market to go and sell them, that farmer's market didn't happen. So
Right.
in talking with Casey, we already have pretty similar goals through Tallow and AET to help kids promote themselves. But when they fall short of being able to get that done of no fault of their own, then you kind of want to try to figure out how to help. And so we just came up with this idea of teaming up to help these students they're kind of essential to our infrastructure. They're kind of the future. These kids are learning to do by doing, and they're all of a sudden, their doing got cut short. And so financially, you don't want them to lose, and if they can recoup some of the investments they've made or have some chance to be recognized as a student that's doing a really good job and then get recognized in the normal way, then maybe we could somehow recognize them. And so Casey and I got together with Tallow, and Jen has helped in their team, and we've created a pretty simple application process for the students that, just can simply show what records they've recorded, shows their planning and their doing and their reflecting. And then if they can do those basic concepts, it's pretty simple to apply. So that's kind of why we teamed up and we're able to get this done.
Okay. And Jen, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I can just share around some of the details of the grant, which we were really excited about. And just go back to Roger. It's just to give these kids an opportunity to recoup some of the costs. We just were really looking for any opportunity to do that. And we're learning as these kids apply for the grants, they are just really impressive. At the end of the day, it's why we have Tallow. Is to meet these great kids and to give them those opportunities, like I mentioned. But so in this case, we've got a pool of $10,000. So from now until the end of August, we'll be awarding 1,000 grants or $1,000 in grants. So that's 10 separate grants to a new winner that we'll select randomly. We'll do that every other week to help pay for the losses that they may have incurred on their SAE projects there. So we're really excited to provide that opportunity just for them to recoup those costs.
Yeah.
And so to apply for, I want to make sure I share, of course, how they can apply for that. So the only thing they have to do is go to tallow.com/AET, and that's TALLO.com/AET to apply.
Yeah, that is great. Well, I mean, obviously, Tallow and AET and the Off-Farm Income Podcast, we've all got a vested interest in seeing these FFA students and really youth in ag and youth in education succeed. We profile a ton of projects and FFA students here on this show every single week. And, it's really interesting because I'm so focused on entrepreneurship in terms of what we do on this show, which is for the FFA students, probably where the bulk of the financial risk comes. And I'm always cheerleading for these students because they come up with these incredibly innovative entrepreneurial ideas because they're young and they're kind of looking at it like, why not? What could go wrong? What's the worst case scenario? And you love to see that courage and that innovation because they come up with these great ideas and they come up with business ideas that adults replicate and can turn into great businesses. But then when something like this happens where they've taken this risk, they've outlaid some capital, and like what Roger was saying is no fault of their own, all of a sudden it all kind of gets pulled away because of outside forces that normally would not be there. It is great to be able to step in and support them and help them, help cushion the blow from taking that risk because we don't want them to become, super risk averse. I love seeing the spark in their ideas.
Yeah, exactly. And it's more than just the money, but it's just them getting recognized for their work, and that's what's tough. We've got way more than 10 students that ought to get recognized. It's just an effort to try to help give them an opportunity. But it's a worthwhile effort for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you, right now you guys have pulled together and you've got the money for grants for 10 students over the next several months. But are you open to other companies, other corporations getting involved and saying, hey, here's $10,000 from us, do 10 more students or something like that?
Absolutely. And that's and Jen may add to this, but that's kind of one of the hopes that we had when we first got started. It was, we can scrape together $10,000 to give away. If this gets going and we get students involved and we share this with others, like we're doing here with your show, hopefully we can get more involved in this, because it's an idea that ought to just accumulate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm hearing from people all around the United States about fairs getting canceled, things getting shut down. I mean, obviously, Roger, where you're at down in Texas, things happen a little earlier than in the year than they do up where I'm at in Idaho, and probably the same for you as well, Jen. But as things get shut down and you've got kids who've invested this money and this time, and people are scrambling to come up with solutions, but this is a great way to fill in that gap. It's not exactly the same thing as going to the show ring and having everybody see what you've done, but it's something to say, we haven't forgotten about you, for sure.
Well, it is, and it's amazing and this goes to the, in agriculture, I should describe it. Students have projects, and most everyone's familiar with the projects they have, but just for those that aren't, we call them SAEs, so supervised ag experiences. And as you mentioned before, as an entrepreneur, we're used to that word. That means you had to invest something,
right?
Money, typically, and time. But projects could be all types. But I have data, of course, through AET that we look at it, and nationwide. So this is nationwide across 480,000 students. On average, they invest about $1,400 in their projects individually.
Wow.
So you've got, on average, students investing that. If you're a student in Nebraska, and it probably has a lot to do with the demographics, but Nebraska students, entrepreneurs, they're investing about $4,700 as their average. Mm-hmm. In South Dakota's $4,300, Iowa's $4,000, and so you have students really spending some pretty major money to try to have a project, and so in hopes that they get an economic return. So this project hopefully just gives them a little bit of encouragement that there's others out there teaming up with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jen, I wanted to ask you another detail on this. How are the students who are receiving the grant, how are they being chosen?
They're just chosen randomly. Of course, they have to meet the criteria in terms of using AET to track their supervised agricultural project. And so when they do that, we just select them randomly. And I actually would love to share some details on our first winner, Travis, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, yeah, please do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so our first winner was Travis Moore, and he's a junior from the Cypress Ridge FFA chapter in Texas down there where Roger is. And like I said, these kids on our platform and in AET, they're just phenomenal kids. So Travis actually in May of last year, he bought a steer, and he bought it by doing odd jobs like in chores, like mowing the lawn and stuff like that. So we worked really hard to be able to buy this steer. And he intended on showing it at the March Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. But of course, as you guys both have mentioned, a lot of those things right now are being canceled, and this show was canceled. He was hoping to sell the steer for around $4,000. And just as Roger had mentioned, these kids are investing a lot into the project. So he was really expecting to get a little return on his investment then. But unfortunately it was canceled. So we're just hoping that he can use this $1,000 to go towards that project, or maybe even hopefully his project for next year, so that he can keep his participation going within the program and with his FFA chapter. Mm-hmm. So that's just a great example of the type of kids that are working hard. They're working hard to be able to execute on these projects and to really make a difference and learn a lot. And so any way we can help them, this is just one small way that Roger and Tallow, that we can really step in and try to do our part.
Yeah, that is great. And Roger, I wanted to ask you, in terms of COVID, obviously we're talking about kind of one way it's impacting students, but what other things are you seeing through the AET and through Texas A&M?
Yeah, it's really been, of course, negative as we would imagine, but students have and communities, I should say, have really jumped up and done some innovative things. Our local county fair here in Texas, and I should also add our first winner that Jen mentioned, being from Texas, when we drew him randomly, or Jen and Tallow really pulled him randomly out of complete application. And when the student from Texas showed up, I was like, "Oh, we gotta kick him back into the pool. We can't take a kid from Texas right out of the gate."
Uh-huh.
But we've got applicants from all over, with Texas and I think Ohio. Jim, what are some of the other states that we've got represented in the pool so far?
Yeah, Iowa, Kentucky. It's kind of all over the gamut, but we definitely have seen a huge increase in those in California as well.
Yep. Yeah, those are several states. And so it's kind of fun to really go all across. But back to what I've seen through AET and our data and what's changed has been kind of interesting. But locally I've seen, and again, our area of Texas, but I bet you can see this in other places, they've come up with virtual livestock shows, virtual sales, where Facebook Live has become kind of a tool that's been used a lot in other forms of media. But those things have been kind of neat to see people come up. FFA contests normally for our area are in the spring, and those contests aren't able to happen face-to-face. And so there's been people moving contests to online. In fact, right now this week, I'm hosting a national farm business management contest, and it's got so far about 120 kids in it that are all taking a 100-question test. I don't know who would take a test for fun, but these kids are. And so that really means these 120 kids are super assertive, because I think when I was in high school, I wouldn't have taken a test for a competition. I'd have run a race or something. But we've got kids that are stepping up in lots of different ways. I was talking with Kevin Fox. He's with Alaska FFA, and they actually hosted their convention all completely online. And they recognize every year their top AET record-keeping student in Alaska, but they did all that virtually. And so it's a lot of things have happened in a new way. It's kind of fun to see. But some of the negative, of course, impacts are just the lack of the drop in engagement. In our AET platform, we see engagement backing up about 5 years.
Oh, wow.
So with classes not being in session, things are actually showing a lot less engagement. But then at the top end, California is a great example. They have a online research competition where the kids have done a research project, and they write their research paper and they put together a research poster, and they usually show up and present that to judges face to face. Well, they weren't able to get that done. So inside of AET, we developed quickly, as you would imagine, an online platform for them to be able to put their application into an online platform like AET, and then be able to turn around and take that and share that with judges that the state of California assigned, and those judges can see it, and then they can provide an electronic score, and then that gets back to the teacher and to the state so they can still be involved. And it is encouraging because of the drop we saw in engagement. We thought the number of kids applying to that application would go down, but it actually went up. And so again, lots of areas where we see a lot less activity, but then some areas we even see more activity or things happening in new ways. So it's kind of encouraging.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, and agriculture is resilient, though, right? So we come up with ways when things don't seem to be working.
Yeah, that is the name of the game in ag. There's no question about that. Now, Jen, you've got your own unique perspective. Being with Tallow, what kind of impacts are you seeing in terms of what's going on with COVID and the shutdown?
Yeah, I would just really echo exactly what Roger said. We're seeing a lot of things moving online, obviously, and kids we've seen a lot of pickup with engagement on our platform in terms of kids, if they're having different student organizations, exactly like you guys are talking about, having things canceled. It's like, okay, how can I showcase what I'm doing, or how can I be noticed by a college or a technical school or potentially an employer if I want to go right into the workforce from school? How am I going to get noticed now when I don't have hey, I won third place in this FFA competition, or, I won, I was able to win, and it goes to sports too. I was on the championship team and we won the state championship or something like that. So we're seeing a lot of engagement in terms of kids looking for a place to really showcase what they're doing, but also in terms of being able to come on our platform and look for scholarships. So we've seen a crazy increase in the number of applications for scholarships because, again, going back to kind of this negative impact that COVID's had, a lot of kids, their parents are losing their jobs. They need the money for school or for books or whatever it is. And so not only are they looking to find opportunities in terms of, let me showcase what I'm doing and get opportunities that way, but also where can I find money? And similar to the same reason we're doing this this grant is just the kids right now are out a lot and they just need whatever they can for help. And, it's been interesting because we are really close to these students. So this is who we work with day in, day out. And we've just kind of watched everything from, in the beginning, we would talk to them and they'd say, oh, the stores are out of toilet paper. This is so crazy. And then we kind of talk to them a couple weeks later and they're like, all right, school's canceled. This is kind of cool. It's canceled for a couple weeks. And then we talk to them again and they're like, oh, school's canceled for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have prom. I'm not going to see my classmates. I'm not going to, see them before I graduate. And then it kind of goes into, well, are we even going to have school? Am I going to go to college in the fall? So it's kind of this, we've seen this trend of kind of this, I would think of, the young kid and the teenager thinking, oh, darn, there's no toilet paper, to now it's, I'm concerned about, my parents not having a job. How am I going to pay for things? More of that, I'm concerned about my mental health. So Cal has really been working with these students to understand what they're going through and provide the resources that we can through, whether it's through our blogs or through these scholarship type programs or things like that. But we're really seeing the impact on these kids, and it is heartbreaking, but then really, like Roger was saying, they're so resilient. They're bouncing out of this. They're finding really creative ways to be noticed, to show on their online profiles. We've seen a lot of they're taking up baking, or maybe they're growing some herbs in the garden with their parents. So they're still doing a lot of things they can and learning new skills, but it's not always the skills that traditionally we would think that they'd be learning when they'd have opportunities for these state championships and auctioning off their steers and things like that. So we've really watched kind of the way that they felt this kind of ups and downs, but then we're also really encouraged by all the kind of innovation and the creative ways these kids are looking to other ways to showcase what they can do and find new hobbies and stuff like that. So it's been really fun to learn. I feel like I'm learning from these kids. A lot of these kids that are on this platform, these students, I'm like, they're so much smarter than me. Like the stuff they come up with is just incredible. So it's truly been a pleasure to work with them and to see them kind of grow and just find new ways to showcase, like I said, showcase what they're doing or just to stay busy when school's not in session.
Yeah, Jen, I can feel your pain on that one. I'm interviewing 150 FFA students a year on this show, and they blow me out of the water. I think back to what I was doing when I was 16, and I'm like, well, I wasted my life. These kids are just amazing.
Yeah, what was I doing with my life? Look at what they're doing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if you could remind us how to apply for the scholarship, so everybody, we get one more reminder on that, so people, or the scholarship for the grant, so people can get reminded how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And this can be used as a scholarship if kids want to use it to go to school or for books, to your point, but also for grants for their projects. So it really can be, you can kind of probably use those words interchangeably. But yeah, to apply, they just go to tallo.com, and that's tallo.com/AET. If they're not a member of Tallo, all they have to do is sign up and create a profile. And again, it's free to do that. And then they just answer a couple of questions. They submit their SAE report that they generate through AET. And then that's it. And then they will be randomly selected from the pool of kids that have applied. So it's really that easy.
That is great. And then if folks have questions that we haven't addressed in this interview, they can go to either one of you two and ask those. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yep. And Matt, one of the things that they might want to add too on their application, as Jen mentioned, they upload their SAE report. That's something that they have inside of AET. So as they build a project, that's kind of important to get applied really easy. Is they've built a project in their record book, they've got a plan. That's important for them to have. They've got journals that showcase their time and skills.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things they track in AET, not just money, but that's skill attainments. Maybe even more important than the money. But it's hard to scholarship or grant a skill, right? So we can help them with the money.
Mm-hmm.
But they're investing time and skills. So they have to have a plan. They have to have records that show what they've done. And then that may involve financial records, but those will be things they have to do. And then that just all comes out in a simple PDF. And so when Jen was mentioning that application, they really want to go in their record book, get out one of their projects, pick one that they feel like is the best one to showcase themselves, and just get that simple PDF report. And then they're ready to go into Tallow and get that applied.
Okay.
So I wanted to make sure I added that just as a tip. But yeah, with questions, definitely they can reach out to me at AET or Jen as well, of course, in Tallow.
Okay, great.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing, if you don't mind, I'd love to add, too, is that, when these kids sign up for their profile, that's not going to not only help them apply for this grant, but also that's going to put them in front of, thousands of employers and colleges to potentially be showcased. So it's kind of a win-win situation there.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
There's a double positive here, which is always a benefit. And I want to make sure and clarify for everybody before we wrap up, as long as they meet the minimum requirements to get in the pool of applicants for the grant, after that there's no judging or anything like that going on. Everybody has an equal shot at receiving this.
That's a good thing
right.
to highlight. If you're a student with one small project of rabbits, let's just call it small, but you have a project of rabbits and another kid's got a large cattle operation, they've both done a good job of planning, doing, and reflecting on what they've done in their records, taking the initiative to go to Tallow and get applied. They have equal chances of getting picked.
Yeah, okay. Now, for both of you, if there's somebody listening to this episode and they want to donate to this cause, they want to sponsor a $1,000 grant or something like that, how would you want them to go about contacting you or doing that? Where would we want to funnel those folks through to?
Yeah, that's a great outcome. Sure. Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, feel free to reach out to either or both of us. My email address is jeeves, and that's EAVES @tallow.com. I would love to talk to anyone interested in contributing.
Okay.
Yeah, same thing for me as well. They can get a hold of me just at Roger, so that's ROGER and it's THEAET.com, theAET.com.
Okay. And I will put links, everybody, to both Roger and Jen's email addresses and also the sign-up form and all of that in the show notes for today's episode on our website as well, so you can find that really easily. Roger and Jen, what have I left out? What have I not asked that we need to get into this episode?
I think you've covered it all, and I appreciate the chance to showcase what really ourselves at AET and Tallow just thought is a way to help find some students and showcase them. So I think you covered it all well. Jen, can you think of anything?
I don't think so. I think I just add, Roger and I both, I can speak for you. I think we're just super excited about this and helping to hopefully help alleviate some of the burden that these kids are experiencing during this crazy time. So I just really appreciate you letting us hop on here and share this with everybody. And I just echo that, it's an equal opportunity for everyone. So everyone, come one, come all to apply. We're excited the more the merrier.
Wonderful. Well, hey,
absolutely. Perfect.
Thank you both for coming on. Thank you both for what you're doing, and thank you both for coming on and sharing it with everybody today as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Well, thank you for joining us, everybody, and thank you very much to Jennifer Eves of Tallow as well as Roger Hannegriff of the AET for everything they're doing and joining us on the show today. And as always, enjoy your journey to the ultimate lifestyle business, agriculture.